Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here today on a Saturday morning to listen to a little bit about the science of reading, structured literacy, and language acquisition. My name is Luz Vicario, and I will be facilitating today's session. So the objectives for the day. So by the end of today's session, we will have learned what we know about the science of reading, how structured literacy supports the reading process, and language acquisition and reading in a multilingual classroom. Just a few norms for this morning to keep in mind. Please mute yourselves as we're presenting and going through some of the slides. If you have any questions, please do put them in the chat, and then let me know if anyone is opposed to being recorded, as this session is being recorded. So a little bit about the science of reading. Much has been written. There has been many studies and much literature written and developed in terms of the science of reading. Simply put, the science of reading is the converging evidence of what matters and what works in literacy instruction, organized around models that describe how and why. So when many studies have been put together and themes keep bubbling up and coming up, we probably should pay attention, as this shows evidence that it works for teaching reading. Once again, the simple view of reading, and according to the science of reading, reading comprehension happens when there is decoding and language comprehension. This is the simple view of reading. Again, reading comprehension is the product of decoding and language comprehension. What is the guidance that we have learned from the science of reading? What we have learned from the science of reading and the vast number of research and studies over the years is that critical elements in reading must be present that are a strong foundation in phonological awareness and phonics and word recognition. In other words, students must be able to understand and really own that phonemes create sounds, the manipulation of syllables, to be able to manipulate that and understand what happens when you move morphemes and syllables around. And they need to be able to do this with a high degree of automaticity or fluency. It's important in a strong reading program that there is vocabulary comprehension as well as oral language comprehension, specifically and critical to classrooms where there is a high number of multilingual learners. And all this must be focused around, and at the end of the day, that there is a strong comprehension of text or the written word, as well as the spoken word. In our structured literacy programs and in our classrooms, it is critical and important that these components of the science of reading that we just talked about are done so in a systematic way, that it is cumulative. In other words, that you have these systems in place to teach reading, writing, listening, and speaking, and that it's done in a cumulative way where things are naturally building upon each other, that the instruction is explicit. And then critically important is the diagnostic piece, whether it be done individually with students at their levels, or the universal screening piece, which happens 2 to 3, sometimes 4 times a year. Critically important that all of these pieces develop individually for each student, so that diagnostics must be in place continuously in order for the classroom teacher to be able to develop their instruction, to really inform their practices, and to be able to give each child explicitly what they need in that development of all of these areas that we've talked about. Literacy and language acquisition for multilingual learners. Over the years, students that come from a background with multilingual, um, other languages other than English spoken in the home, have fallen behind due to a lack of a strong structured literacy program in the classroom. And now with the pandemic, the gap is widening even further. So it is critically important that we understand um, all these studies and what supports language acquisition and literacy development in classrooms of where students come with different backgrounds and different cultures and specifically different languages. And there are many studies that support over the years that using and honoring the native language not only is important for students to be able to engage with reading and engage in learning and engage in our classrooms, but it also is important that we understand that it is an asset to come to a classroom with another language and learn how the L1 or the native language can support and be a tool to develop literacy, to develop vocabulary and comprehension, and really truly understand that all this develops on a continuum in each of these areas. As educators today, it is critically important that we understand the process of second language acquisition and how the native language supports the acquisition of a second language or a third language or a fourth language. Why not, right? So these all make us culturally and linguistically responsive teachers.